I think the goal of a lot of us, and it's kind of set by our society, is I want to retire as soon as possible. I want to, become financially independent, and I want to retire young, or I want to retire as early as possible. Certainly by 65, some people by 55, and I never have really felt that way. And I'll tell you a story why. When I was in college, I worked for a big law firm in Atlanta called King and Spalding, and there were two attorneys there out of the 200 attorneys, and they were in their 90s, and they still were coming to work on a regular basis. One of them was John Sibley, and he was 98 years old, still coming to the office a couple days a week, and was just contributing. He was Coca-Cola's first corporate attorney back in like 40s or 50s, I think. But anyway, King and Spalding, he was still contributing. And the other one was William Meadows, and Mr. Meadows was in his 90s when I first got there. I believe he was 93, and he still was driving to work. Shortly thereafter, they did make him take his license away, but he still would ride the subway train, the MARTA train, into the office every day, or not every day, probably 3 or 4 days a week. And then he would, work 2 or 3 days a week on his clients, with his clients. So he was contributing, and I remember it was one day in December. His birthday was December the 7th, and they had a birthday party for him on a Friday. It was Friday the 6th, and his birthday was on the 7th. And so they had asked me to, one of the other partners had given me their car keys and asked me to take Mr. Meadows home. So I got a couple of his presents they'd given him, and I walked him out to his car, and then was driving him, to his house home. And on the way to his house, I just remember he was sharp as a tack. I mean, he was giving me advice and funny and telling me stories, and I just thought at the time, like, wow, I hope when I'm 93 I can be like this. And I think at that time I just thought, I don't think I ever want to retire. I remember there were some stories about, like, Bear Bryant, for instance. He was kind of sick, but he retired from football, and I think within 6 or 7 months he had passed away. And then just several of those kind of things. And I just had also seen a few people that I knew, and they were elderly, that when they retired, they just started kind of losing their mental faculties. So that was just me personally. I just thought, I don't know that I want to retire. The answer is, I'm a 19-year-old thinking this. Anyway, so as I dropped Mr. Meadows off, I walked him to his door, and had his presents and handed them to him. And as he's kind of shutting the door, he said, "Thanks, David. Have a good weekend." I said, "Oh, thanks, Mr. Meadows. By the way, my birthday is on Monday, December 9th. And he said, "Okay, good." Click, and just shut the door. And I was just like, well, that was kind of rude, And I thought, well, maybe he didn't hear me. His hearing wasn't great, so I thought maybe he didn't hear me. And I just kind of gave the benefit of the doubt, but it kind of bugged me a little bit, So I thought about it a couple of times that weekend, but I really did kind of really focus on, wow, I want to be sharp like that when I'm older. I think going to work, I think that really does keep you mentally engaged. And anyway, so I get to work on Monday, and I would go to school in the morning. I was going to Georgia State at the time, and then about 10 o'clock I would go in the office. Well, it was just right down the block in downtown Atlanta. And so I get to the office. I was a messenger, so I was delivering documents at that time all around Atlanta. And when I get there, the manager of that area, he said, "Hey, Dave, I got something for you. Can you come to my office?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I go in there, and he hands me this personalized stationery from William Meadows, King and Spalding, and it's a letter. So I open it up, and there's a letter from Mr. Meadows. He said, "Yeah, Mr. Meadows came down here, was looking for you earlier," and he'd come down and written me a personal, handwritten letter, and it, something to the effect of, "Dear David, you're a fine young man. Thank you for taking me home on my birthday, and you have a bright future ahead of you. Happy birthday, and I'm about to choke up just thinking about it, but here's $5 for you." And so, my initial reaction was, he only gave me $5. This guy's making like $500,000 a year. That was a brief second, but actually, pretty quickly I was just like, wow, that just was touching. Again, it just chokes me up even now, even thinking about it. This guy that didn't even really know me, took the time to write this personal letter, took the time to walk down there, which is 93 years old, comes down, 4 or 5 flights, the elevator down 4 or 5 stories, and just took the time to give it to me. Was just special. And I remember that again all weekend. Remembered that it was my birthday. Like, who am I? And anyway, I saved that letter for a long time. I've lost track of it now, but it was just really moving to me. And this I thought about this again. I'm actually in Germany now, and we're in the Black Forest. and we went to this cuckoo clock place. We're making cuckoo clocks, and there was a guy there. His name's Adolf Herr, and he's been making cuckoo clocks. He's like 8th generation. His family since the 1700s have made these clocks, and he's in there, chiseling away, doing demonstrations and stuff. We bought one of the clocks, and I got to talking to him, and he says, I make a clock every single day. Still to this day, 86 years old, make a clock every day. And I was like, wow, that must, keep you strong. He said, yes, keeps me strong mentally, keeps me strong physically. And it gives him a purpose, and the clock we bought, he came over there and was telling us all kinds of stories about it. And, he was proud of this clock. And so I just think that using whatever, it doesn't have to be, whatever your job is. And I get it. My dad was an airline mechanic. He absolutely hated working at Delta Airlines. He retired at 52. As soon as they gave him a chance to retire, he was out of there. But once he, quote unquote, retired, he was a mechanic, so he had a workshop, and he started restoring cars. So he was restoring cars and going to car shows, and he stayed busier, working. Once he retired, than he did when he was actually working at Delta, building, a pump or two, hydraulic pump or two, once or twice a week. And then kind of at the point, I've worked at my same company that started 25 years ago now, and we're growing still. I think seeing it grow, to me, and this may not be for everybody, but it's the old saying, it's the journey, not the destination. I've done videos before on the marathon, and there's something about, when you actually do the marathon itself, finishing it and you go through the finish line, and there's some enjoyment in that, there's some, feeling of fulfillment, but, it's that 6 months leading up to it where you're getting out there and jogging and enjoying the day and exercising, feeling good about yourself. That's the exciting part. That's the most enjoyable part of it, and it's the longest part of it. The same thing in our company. To see it over these years to grow. I'm at a point when I go to trade shows and stuff, a lot of people are in their 60s and they're working for big companies, and a lot of our vendors are big companies, and they just can't wait till the day they retire. And I'm just thinking, I don't know what I'll do. I don't see me playing golf every day. I don't see me traveling all the time. I'm on a trip right now. It's great. 2-week trip, but I've been on, trying to see what's going on back at the office while I'm here. Not a workaholic. I'm not doing it every day, but I think that it's just gonna, I hope, keep me, engaged and fulfilled, and mentally sharp and physically sharp. This is one of the quick story I'll say. So my mother, when she was 75, actually, she went back to work. So she was staying home. My dad had passed away about 5 years earlier, and she was just kind of sitting around the house and just was, she tried the traveling thing, and she was, going to all kinds of trips and stuff, and just nothing was really fulfilling to her. So my sister was working at Amazon in the warehouse, and she got my mom an interview, and she got a job at Amazon in the warehouse, which I thought at the time, like, this is a terrible idea. What is my mom going to be doing at a warehouse, where they're picking boxes and loading up pallets and all that? And she ended up living like 6 more years, and just loved working at Amazon. Again, I'm not saying she loved every day. She definitely had some complaints about it, but she said, before she passed away, that it helped her get her purpose, and that was her family, and she felt an ownership about that. And she was miserable sitting around the house, not working. So I'm just putting this out there, and it's not for everybody. I know there are certain people that are like, hey, I can't wait to retire, I can't wait to travel, I can't wait to do this every day. I'm cruising down the Rhine River on a riverboat. We were in Heidelberg earlier. Yeah, that's great. And there's a bunch of people in here that are, I'm like the youngest one here at 59 years old, but there's a lot of people here that are retired, and they love doing this, I suppose, and they could do it every day. But I think, for me, I want to stay engaged in something, have something that I have goals that are mental goals and achievements that I can, be part of. And that's kind of what I said, that's how I feel. So again, this is for those that are young, starting your career. You can set your time frame on your financial goals and what you're trying to achieve. But I think just because you've made your $1 million or your $10 million or your $20 million, whatever the number is, I don't know that you're going to want to pack it up in and just sit on your yacht and enjoy the day. Maybe you will, maybe, but I would just keep in the back of your mind, you know, what if that doesn't work out? What if I don't enjoy golfing every day? I will tell you, that brings to mind one of the story. There's a buddy of mine who used to play golf in Huntsville, Alabama, and one Friday he would set a tee time on a Saturday morning, and it was in Redstone Arsenal, so it was Army base, and they were very, you can imagine the Army, very strict about the tee time. So you had to be there, and you had to be like 5 minutes early, or you were going to lose your tee time. So we had the very first tee time one Saturday, and we were out late on a Friday night throwing darts. And my buddy Ray was like, "David, you got to be there. Remember, our tee time's at 7:02 or whatever it was, and 0700 whatever, however he said it, and make sure you're there on time because they will leave without us." And so I get there early. We get to the tee box. The marshal's there, and there's only one other guy. So it's me and my buddy Ray, and then one little old man. He's an old gray-headed man, and he ended up being, he was a rear admiral, I think they said. And he had a little bag he's carrying. He had like 4 clubs in it. Like he had a 5-wood, a chipper, and then a pitching wedge or sand wedge and a putter. And that was it, 4 clubs. And so he looked at us and he goes, "Are you guys gonna be able to keep up with me? Because I'm not slowing down for anybody." And I was like, "Is this guy serious?" And so, well, he was serious. So they come to find out, he had the standing tee time, first tee time every single day that they were open. I think they're closed on Mondays, but he had the standing tee time. They gave him the first tee time, and he would go out there and play 9 holes of golf every single morning, starting at 7 o'clock. And he'd walk it, and he would finish in I think it was like an hour 15, hour and a half. So I remember that first hole, back then I had a real bad slice. So that's when I was nervous, and this guy, so I sliced one way off the course, and we were walking as well. We didn't have carts. So I'm like, running over to get my ball, and this guy hits it right down the middle. And it was only like 150 yards, but it was like right down the middle. He walks up, gets his little 5-wood, hits 5-wood again, right down the middle again, right near the green. Gets a little chipper, chips it up on the green. I meanwhile over there trying to catch my ball, trying to get it, hit it, and I think I even picked up the first hole because I was just so nervous because this guy was playing so fast. Anyway, when I saw that, I just saw this 90-plus-year-old man doing that every day, I was just like, wow, I hope I can do that when I'm that age. Now that's the physical part. I don't know what he did as far as hobbies, or maybe he just sat on his couch and vegged all day. I don't know, but I think you want both. You want the physical aspect, taking care of yourself, and you want the mental aspect to stay engaged, whether it's consulting, whether it's YouTube videos, whether it's continuing to run your company. I've talked before about Mr. Yulchi at Flight Safety. He's in his 90s, and he was a billionaire working as Warren Buffett bought that company. Warren Buffett just is stepping away from day to day from Berkshire Hathaway. He's 94. I'm sure he's still going to stay engaged as on the board, chairman, whatever he does. Charlie Munger, his partner, worked to the day he died, 98 years old. So again, I think that's my message, is just consider what you're going to do if you are not the kind of person that can just retire and veg out or travel or whatever every day. So that's it, and I think if you do that, hopefully we'll all finish well.